Welcome into the Fade. We haven't even started yet. Kelly said I look awful and I have only slept for 4 hours. I actually slept well. We're just taping in the morning, and this is what life looks like with me in the morning. So this is Wednesday morning. What time is it, Kelly? It's like 9 a.m. my time, 10 a.m. Eastern. So if there are news stories that break relating to these lines, we are talking about them on Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're taping because I'm on the road and going to be running all over the place for the rest of the week. I'll be on Big Noon on Saturday, Fox pregame show down in Athens, Georgia. Should be a lot of fun. So that is on the horizon. In the meantime, Kelly, do you feel strongly? Let's jump into the NFL action because we got a Thursday night game tomorrow. Before we do that, though, have you come to grips with the fact that in our high-end fantasy football league, I am currently number one? I've been the best manager all year long. The rest of the league has to be furious over this. Would you care to assess my brilliance there since I've lost everything other than the election when it comes to college football and NFL gambling this year?
Listen, I have been paying very minimal attention. There's a lot of beta males in that group. Part of the requirement is you have to pay a $10,000 entry fee. It doesn't require that you have to have a set of balls. So there's a lot of like back and forth in there. And I'm just like, you know what? I have way too many things going on to be paying attention to fantasy football and who makes trades and who gets their feelings hurt. My team is 6-4. Your team is 7-3. So I'm nipping at your heels. Hopefully, we can get a win this week. It's been kind of smooth sailing up until that trade that caused all the drama. So your good friend and former colleague, cousin Sal, and I sure raised some eyebrows when I traded him a running back that I didn't need. And so after that, I just had enough. I said, okay, I don't care about fantasy. Call me in the playoffs.
All right. I love that line to start off there. I have not gotten caught up in the drama. But speaking of drama, it's actually a really good game in the NFC East that's happening tomorrow. Washington, they will forever be the Redskins, but are now called the Commanders, are on the road against the Eagles. There was a lot of nervousness about the Eagles early in the year. Jalen Hurts and company seem to have alleviated those concerns. You've got the Eagles around a 3.5-point favorite. You've got an over-under set here, 48.5. If I had to play it, Kelly, I'd probably lean over. Because the Commanders' defense has not been great. Jaden Daniels, runaway rookie of the year, probably one of the best rookie season performances that we've ever seen. Eagles, like I said, have righted the ship. They have been playing very well. One of these two teams is going to win the division, given the Cowboys have collapsed and the poor Giants are just an unmitigated disaster. How do you see this one shaking out?
Yeah, Clay, I'm excited. This is the second straight week on Thursday night where like we get it actually like pretty entertaining game. Last week, Bengals Ravens was exciting. This week, a nice NFC least preview, but these two aren't the least. These two are exciting teams. You mentioned the Eagles riding the ship. Over the last couple of weeks, they've just been playing really well. Jalen Hurts hasn't been turning the ball over, which is really nice. 16 touchdown passes in that 5-game winning streak. So look, I like Philadelphia here, but I said weeks ago, there's no way I'm betting against the Washington football, whatever the hell we want to call them these days. I can't say that on this program because we're a family show, but that is their new nickname for me, Clay. I think that's how ridiculous it's been with all the name changes. So I have been really excited to see Jaden Daniels. He has been by far the best rookie quarterback we've seen in at least a few seasons. I take that back. CJ Stroud was pretty good last year, but what the Eagles did last week in Jerry World is kind of a farce, right? So we got to kind of put a little asterisk there. Now, if you watch the Steelers game, that one was a little interesting as well. I did not love my Steelers pick. I ended up on them in a pick 5 late. But look, the overs hit in 7 of the last 9 Eagles games. I kind of don't blame you for liking it here. I want to give a slight lean to the Commanders, but I don't think I'm going to have any action on this one.
All right. Rest of the NFL slate. Let me start running through some of these. Packers Bears. I took the Patriots last week. Ended up being correct because the Bears were so awful. Packers out to nearly a touchdown favorite, Kelly. Is this a great example of everybody selling on the Bears too soon, or were they so awful that this is justified? I'm taking the Packers to win this game by a touchdown or more. Bears obviously making changes after that woeful offensive performance. I will say I liked what I'd seen from Drake May, like the evolution of his game. How do you break? Well, let me give you a couple of different games early that I've got. I'm taking the Dolphins. They're a different team. With Tua, went on the road, got the win over the Rams. And I'm taking the Ravens-Steelers game. There's some good NFL games this weekend. I'm taking the Ravens on the road against the Steelers. 35-year-old Russell Wilson has been reinvigorated since being inserted in as the starting quarterback there. Do you have either of those sides? So Packers, Ravens, Dolphins, 3 favorites in early-ish kick on Sunday.
Listen, our good friend Todd Furman told me long, long ago, Clay, you don't get rich laying divisional road chalk. But you think I want to touch this Bears team? Let me give you a couple of stats why you don't want to take the Bears. You don't have to lay it with the Packers, but Green Bay's covered 10 straight against Chicago. You mentioned the dumpster fire. They fire their offensive coordinator like that is supposed to help here. The biggest problem in Chicago is their offensive line. I told everybody that was the issue with Justin Fields. Now Caleb Williams has taken sacks on 25+% of his pressure dropbacks. 28.7. He's gotten sacked more this season than Deshaun Watson. The guy has no time, and all of his faults and all of his issues, because I know that many guys on that offense do want to move away from him. It's tough. But Green Bay, 19 turnovers on the season. I think they're going to make his life a living hell. I'm not going to take the Dolphins against the spread this week, but I do think they get the win over the lowly Raiders. I did take them in my survivor pool this week. I do think this is a really good time for Miami to play them, at least to win. Maybe if you're a money line parlay better. I know that they have a short week coming off LA, but from what I understand, they're staying on the West Coast. Keep in mind, asterisks. Sometimes those are wrong, but this is a 5-game losing streak for the Raiders. I do not think this team is going to right the ship before their bye week. So I'm with you on the Dolphins. And I've went back and forth on what's going to be my best bet this week in the NFL a couple of different times. Part of me wanted to look towards the Denver Broncos and what they've been doing, but they had such a gut-wrenching loss to Kansas City last week that it makes it really hard to back. So I ended up going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Anytime you have the AFC North, the line is 3. I swear it doesn't matter if a team is good, if a team is bad. These teams beat the crap out of each other. And as I mentioned, when we talked about Thursday night, Pittsburgh didn't look great. They were down 24-14 in the second half, but they came back. And hey, congrats to Russell Wilson. He is 3-0. So I like the Pittsburgh Steelers catching 3 at home.
We're on opposite sides there. I'm going to get to the Chiefs-Bills, which is by far the biggest game of the weekend and maybe the biggest game of the year so far. I don't think that's too much hyperbole. I'm on the 49ers against the Seahawks, Kelly. I like the way that Brock Purdy has found playmakers. Ricky Prohl suddenly stepping in now. I know they lost Ayuk, but now you've got back Christian McCaffrey. This 49ers team just feels like they're starting to round into shape a little bit. Meanwhile, the Seahawks are plummeting. I'm taking the Texans, big road favorite over the Cowboys, who it feels like are done for the year. And then the Chargers, who really have been playing fantastic the last several weeks. Bengals seem to figure out ways to lose games no matter what happens. So I've got a lot of chalk here, 49ers, Bills, and Chargers before we dive into, I've got the 49ers, the Texans, and the Chargers before we dive into Chiefs Bills. Do you like any of those, any other NFL games jumping out?
Like I said, I don't love laying road chalk. It's not my favorite thing, especially in a division. As far as the Chargers go, man, they had a nice win the other night over your Titans, but I am not sure they've beaten a really good team outside of the Broncos yet, right? They're 0-4 in the second game of back-to-back home games historically, but obviously with things with Jim Harbaugh, they're a little bit different. I don't have a big opinion there, so I'm going to pass. As far as money Night Football goes, man, Houston, we talked about heartbreak for the Broncos. What the hell was that? I can't believe I almost didn't cash the 3.5 after Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions. What a choke job by this team. You're right, though. No Dak is not good for the Cowboys, right? Point blank, period, the end. Cooper Rush, I thought, could fill in nicely. He's been in that Cowboys offense for 5 seasons, and I was wrong. Cowboys defense is full of injuries. Look, there's no reason to back the Cowboys. I'm not sure I want to lay it on the road with the Texans after that Sunday Night Football soul crusher. But, man, there's no way I can touch the Cowboys again this week.
All right, let's dive in here with the Chiefs-Bills. I love the Bills. -1.5 is the number that I got in the last day or so. It's going to be tight. Like, look, the Chiefs blocked a field goal against your beloved Broncos. Kelly, that was a crazy ending. Chip shot should have been the first loss of the season. The Chiefs have just found ways to win in remaining undefeated. They haven't lost in nearly a year. Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL. They've added DeAndre Hopkins, who is a major addition, despite the fact that they've had a litany of injuries at the certainly at the wide receiver position. But I really like the way Josh Allen's team is playing. I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC right now. My fingers are crossed that we could get a Bills-Lions Super Bowl, which would be incredible down in New Orleans. 2 very long-suffering fan bases. I think the Lions are the best team in the NFC right now, coming off of their incredible comeback despite 5 interceptions from Jared Goff on the road against the Texans. Kelly, ultimately, this is a huge rivalry game. The Bills always manage to find a way, it feels like, to lose when it really matters in the postseason. But I think the Bills Mafia is going to be absolutely out of control, outrageous home field advantage here. The Chiefs have been close to losing a few times. They've been playing with fire. I actually think the Bills pull away and win this one by a touchdown or more. I love Buffalo here. It's my favorite NFL bet of the weekend. Am I crazy?
You're crazy, but Clay, get this. Kansas City has been so close to losing every single week, yet they've covered 10 of their last 15 games, and one of those was technically a push. So I guess 10-4-1 in their last 15. Like, this seems like a team that's just barely hanging on, yet they're still covering football games, not last weekend. But, man, it is crazy because this team, I just keep going, all right, the Chiefs are going to turn it on in the postseason. That's just what they do. And we know that, as you mentioned, the Bills have always had success versus the Chiefs in the regular season. Now, January, late December, January is always going to be a question. But do you think the Bills are maybe flying under the radar, right? Like, I had a couple of guys and we talked about the Colts. I didn't play them in real life, but I played them in the contest because you got to have 5. And I thought, okay, the Colts, all right, Joe Flacco, he can hang with the Bills. Wrong. The Bills just absolutely, every time I looked up in the sports book, the Bills were scoring or they were in the red zone. I mean, I think this is the best Bills team we've seen, right? Since like the 90s. And I know that Josh Allen's had a good Buffalo Bills team before, but the best part is Josh Allen isn't beating himself anymore, right? Yes, he's had a couple of interceptions over the last few weeks, but like pound for pound, season for season, he's had way more turnovers in previous years. I like Buffalo. I'm with you here. I just don't do very well betting against the Kansas City Chiefs, as we saw last weekend. Yes, I got the +8, but man, I wanted that money line, Clay.
All right, that's the NFL. Anything else that stands out? Again, we're taping this a little bit after 10 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday because I got to travel. Anything else that stands out to you from the NFL slate?
Yeah, I'm on New England +5. We don't have to talk about it because it's just...
now you're jumping on the New England bandwagon after mocking me last week. I really like Drake May. I think if you're a Patriots fan, you have real reason to be excited about how things are going.
Yeah, I just need 2 more wins to push my season win total, and I should have had the win over your Titans. But yes, you are absolutely right. That defense deserves a lot of credit. 9 sacks on the season. They've just not been giving up stupid points to bad offenses. The LA Rams, I'm not impressed with this team. We'll see. 5 is always that fun number. I feel like it's very sharp. I could see New England not getting the win for me, but getting the cover.
All right, let's go. Anything else? Anything else you like in the NFL?
No,
all right,
there's
let's
not
go
a
to
lot.
college foot. Let's go to college football here, Kelly. I'm going to be on the road, like I said, for Big Noon for the Tennessee Georgia game. Again, it's 10 a.m. on Wednesday. Everybody is asking me, including Kelly. I believe Nico is going to play. So, again, it is Wednesday. Based on what I have heard, and look, I want to be clear about this because inevitably they're going to clip and they're going to post this on Saturday, and people are going to be like, "You're a moron." I'm talking about, and I may be a moron, but we're taping this at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, and I don't know when this clip is going to hit your feeds, right? I don't know when it's going to be out. At 10 a.m. on Wednesday, I believe that Nico is going to play on Saturday. Now, the college football injury reports, I expect that he will be listed later today. I think, Kelly, the first one comes out. Then we get a Thursday, we get a Friday, all the updates. I expect that he will be listed as questionable, which means basically they're not saying whether or not he is going to play. But I think come Saturday night in Athens that Nico is going to play and will be on the field for Tennessee. Now, that obviously impacts this line in a substantial way. However, let me tell you what I like no matter what. I like the under in this game. Tennessee's defense has not allowed over 19 points against any opponent. Carson Beck has thrown 12 interceptions. Kelly, they could not block the Ole Miss defensive front down in Oxford. They've had trouble against vastly inferior teams like Kentucky. This has not been the Georgia team that maybe we anticipated before. I don't think that Georgia is very elite at wide receiver. I think the Tennessee defensive line against the Georgia offensive line matches up well. It will be a ruckus environment. It's virtually impossible to beat Georgia in Athens since Kirby Smart has gotten things rolling. Having said that, I think it's a low-scoring game, whether Nico plays or not, and I do think he will play. I think it's going to be around a 20-17 Georgia win. I like the under. This is a big number now as uncertainty about Nico's health is out there. Expectation of a Georgia bounce-back home game. 2 years ago, Tennessee went on the road and Georgia took it to them. So there's lots of reasons why you could be nervous here. But I like the under and I like Tennessee based on what I am hearing. Now, again, 10 a.m. Wednesday. What do you think, Kelly?
Yeah, I texted you yesterday because I really wanted to know. I have a couple of contests that I'm in early that I have to have my picks in on Tuesday morning. So it's interesting because if Nico plays, I actually think you guys can win in Athens. Now, let me say that. If Nico is healthy and plays, I think you guys can actually win in Athens. You mentioned that defense, and that is going to be the asterisk of if you guys can get Carson Beck to turn the ball over, which we know is very possible. I mean, this is a top, 6-7 defense against the pass. This is a defense that I think can put pressure on a guy who, I don't know. I'm not well versed into the Georgia Bulldog universe, and this is going to get a lot of hate in the comments. It's very focused. I know his mom set the record straight about him laughing on the sidelines against Ole Miss, but man, I mean, he's got 9 interceptions over this season. It's like he's kind of going up against this defense that does exactly that. And can they break him under pressure? I think they can. We'll see if I end up on Tennessee late. The problem is if we do, we're going to see this line drop. So it's like you want to get the best of the information, but you also want to get the best of the number. Oh, man. We'll see. Have you heard anything about Trevor Etienne? That's the other question that I have. See how the running game is going to get going.
Yeah, I don't think either team's going to. That's my other analysis of this game. Look, I've been awful gambling. I've watched every game of both of these teams. I feel like I can see it exactly how this game's going to play out. Neither team's going to be able to run the football because both defensive lines and linebackers, they're going to bring the safeties down. They're going to say, you can't beat us running the football. Dylan Sampson has 20-some-odd touchdowns, one of the best running back performances in SEC history that nobody's talking about. To your point, Georgia has running back issues. Doesn't matter. I think they are going to both stack the line, and it's going to come down to who can make a downfield passing play. Nico has missed a lot of those. Again, I think he's going to play. This line is out to 10.5. It's telling you that he's probably not going to play. Again, I think he's going to play. And even if he doesn't play, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game down the stretch. I just don't think either team here has the opportunity to run away with it. Now, to be fair, you can have punt return touchdowns. You can have defensive scores, right, that can make what is otherwise a relatively even game look very different. But Tennessee, again, on the defense, I feel very confident in their defensive line and their secondary, the overall caliber of talent here. I don't think they're going to be overwhelmed walking into Athens. They didn't play well against Arkansas, which was their last road game. They've had 4 straight at home. So I like Tennessee, and I like the under in what is clearly the biggest game in college football this weekend. Couple of others, Kelly. I'm taking Northwestern. This number has come down a bit, but this feels like the perfect place to take a big home underdog. You've got Ohio State set up for Indiana, Michigan close. You're no way they're getting up for this. I like Northwestern as the big underdog. I like Florida as an underdog against LSU. Another quarterback situation. Lagway, what exactly is going to happen there? But LSU, I just don't think is very good. I'm also on the over there. I don't feel good about Brian Kelly's team showing up in a game in Gainesville. Remember, Florida's still trying to potentially get eligible for a bowl game. They've said that they're going to bring back Billy Napier. I feel like Florida is going to beat the awful Florida State Seminoles to finish the season. And so they need to beat either LSU or Ole Miss to get bowl eligible. I think there's a decent chance of that. So that's 2 games that are out there that I'm taking the road underdog. Again, the over on LSU, UF, Northwestern plus the points. Here's one more, Kelly. I've been waiting to see whether or not it's ever going to come to reality. I mentioned Arkansas beating Tennessee and Fayetteville. Arkansas has gotten blown out by LSU, blown out by Ole Miss at home. Texas, right now, number 3 overall team, Kelly. They haven't beaten a single top 25 team. They got embarrassed by Georgia. They lost 3 years ago, I believe it was, at Arkansas. For people who don't really know, this is a huge rivalry for Arkansas Razorback fans. They hate Texas. They're big home underdogs. I'm going to take Arkansas plus the points and the over in this one. So that is 3 different home underdogs, Northwestern, Arkansas, Florida, that I am taking. Do you like any of those teams?
Well, I definitely don't like Northwestern. I'll say that. I think Ohio State, I know that they do have Indiana on deck, but man, I do not trust this Northwestern team that went from 8-0 against the spread to just not being able to cover any spreads. I think Will Howard is settling in really nicely in that offense. 22 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions. And Ohio State has really showed up defensively this year. And man, that just wonky play with Oregon all of a sudden gave them that loss. They've been on a mission ever since. Florida is tough. I don't know what to make of this team. Per usual, Clay, they're loaded with talent. Everybody was so excited down here about Billy Napier, and then nothing really ever came to fruition. These teams, go back and forth every single year in terms of who's actually going to win the football game. I mean, if you look at their like edge in the series, it's been kind of crazy. LSU last year just trounced them. Obviously, that is with Jaden Daniels, who's no longer there. I actually lean Florida in this one, but I'm just not sure I can trust this team. Also, LSU looked so dreadful last week, and it makes it difficult to want to back them. And as far as Arkansas goes, they were on my long list. I looked really hard at Arkansas this week, and I thought, okay, can I back this team against Texas, right? I have the Texas season win total under 10.5 wins, so I'm going to lose that unless they somehow lose a game where they're a double-digit favorite pretty much at this point, right? They just smoked Florida. It was so bad that they were like showing touchdown dances after like as highlights, because they were just like, this is just a bloodbath. So I don't know how, well, I don't know. That's the other thing about Florida. I don't know how they bounce back after that. But Arkansas, man, they are so Ole Miss against them. And if you saw the final score at home versus LSU, that's the last 3 games, 118-48. That is a crazy point deficit. Like, I just don't trust this Arkansas team, and that's what makes it so difficult. I get why they look like the perfect home dog to want to back. Texas screws up a game like this every single year. I'm just not sure it's this one.
2 more plays. I don't actually have that many in college football, and I've been getting massacred. So at some point, hopefully, we start to get some wins strung together here. Mizzou, South Carolina. I think South Carolina is playing top 10 caliber-ish. That is, if you told me right now South Carolina was playing BYU on a neutral field, I would take South Carolina. If you told me South Carolina was playing Miami, I would take South Carolina. That's what I mean by top 10-ish. I think they're going to blow out Mizzou. I don't think this game is going to be close. I know Mizzou won at home against Oklahoma, but I think Mizzou is in real trouble going to Columbia. I think South Carolina is going to win this game by 20+. Kelly, we've seen Mizzou on the road against decent teams. Obliterated by Alabama, obliterated by Texas A&M. I think they're going to get obliterated by South Carolina as well. This is one of my blood bank guarantees. I've got 2 this week. The other was the UT Georgia under. So I love South Carolina here. One more game that is just that Vegas is telling you that you have to take it. Kansas, and I know you hate them because you're a Kansas State grad. Kansas only around a 3-point road underdog against BYU. Kansas is 3-6, way more talented than that record would reflect. BYU, late defensive holding call that allowed them to get past Utah. I think that Kansas plus the 3.5 is what I got. Everybody's probably betting BYU. Kansas is going to win this game, Kelly. So I'm on South Carolina to blow out Mizzou. No. I think most people are. You think the overall majority of the dollars are going to be on Kansas?
Every single person I know is betting Kansas. I was on Kansas last week. That was a spot to take.
But you know a lot of sharp bettors. Do you think the average college football fan is taking Kansas plus the points, or they're looking at this and saying BYU?
That's probably fair. But sometimes I think that there's a sharp square angle where it's like, I'm so sharp that it becomes square. And that's what I feel like KU looks like this week. I like BYU. I'm going to tell you this right now. I forget what it's called in the Book of Mormon, but it's like a golden book or something, right? I think that is shoved so far up BYU's ass that they're going to get into the college football playoff easily. It is so ridiculous. They have won so many games that they were not supposed to win. Coin flips down to the end has been absolutely mind-boggling. I was on Utah +4 play. Oh my God. It was just agonizing. I understand that we're seeing a resurrection of sorts from this Jayhawk team after they had their moral victory against my team. But man, I do not trust KU not to blow it late in the 4th, where I do trust BYU to keep their foot on the gas and be able to get the win.
Anything in college football that you love? That's all my bets that we have run through. Anything you love?
I love Nebraska this week. Better defense plus the points is my mantra. And look, Southern Cal. Let's go back to week 1. All right, they look good. They look like they have a decent defense, right? Wrong. I don't think that that Nebraska's offense is anything to write home about, but I do think that they can prevail against the lack thereof defense of the Trojans. You got USC. They've got a little sandwich spot here from playing Washington last week. UCLA on deck. I think Nebraska is a better team than advertised. They just can't seem to get out of their own way. I took the +9. I don't know if they can actually win this game, but I'd like to make a case for them to do so later on in the week. Michigan State, I'm on plus the points. Obviously, Jonathan Smith plus the points. I think I've said it 5,000 times this year. It's just what he does. Also, the visitor in this series, 11-2 against the spread. So I'm looking at Michigan State going on the road. 3.5 or so is the number you want to look at. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me about K-State this week, laying 8.5 to Arizona State, coming off that bye. I did not get to watch much of that game versus Houston because, well, I'm glad, actually, I didn't subject myself to that. My mom was sending me text updates. But K-State looked absolutely abysmal offensively, right? They lost 24-19. Avery Johnson, a couple of picks, fumble, was not ideal. But coming off that bye, this is what K-State does well. And I'll tell you guys this much. They make adjustments well in the following game. So I'm pretty sure they've hated themselves for the last 2 weeks, and they're going to take it out on Arizona State. I wanted to make a case for Utah, but betting against the Buffaloes have not been great for me, so I will reserve that for taking Kansas against them the following week. And then I've kind of looked at a couple other underdogs. I'm going to try to make a case for Navy here against Tulane. I know Tulane has had a couple of nice close losses to teams like Oklahoma and Kansas State, but now that we've gotten farther into the season, we realize Tulane maybe isn't as good as advertised. I know it's been a rough one for Navy. They started the season 5-0, and then they lose to Notre Dame and then Rice. But I do think this is a spot for Navy to get things right against a Tulane team that is going to allow them to run the ball. And a couple more that are on my radar that I haven't gotten to the window with yet. I'm going to look towards Baylor coming off that really, ugly run, right? This is just not a Baylor team that's exciting. I'm surprised that Dave still has his job. We'll see how much longer, but I do think this is a lot of love for a West Virginia team that has not been impressive for a better part of the season. They fired their offensive coordinator like that was going to help this offense. And try to look down the list and see if there's anything else that was on my radar on this beautiful Wednesday morning, Clay. I think that is it for me as it stands right now. Obviously, I'll have lots of dogs that I'm looking for to win outright. I'm still a little sour about North Texas and their 3 red zone turnovers that cost me a really nice 3-team underdog parlay.
All right, that is the fade. We will be back next week. I'll talk with Kelly in a sec about when exactly that will be. Usually it's Thursday, but I'm traveling a little bit next week, and then the week after that is Thanksgiving. So we will figure all that out. We will hopefully make you some money. Encourage you to follow Kelly on social media at Kelly in Vegas, I believe, is the Twitter handle. She can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm at Clay Travis. This is OutKick. Thanks for making October the biggest and best audience month in history for OutKick. November on pace to be even bigger. I appreciate all of you. We love you. We'll see you next week.